Howdy, homies. Good morning. It's time for Upper Match 1C in Acropolis number 2, Gauntlet Stage B, and if that sounded like a very complicated affair to you, I trust that this series will be very uncomplicated. In fact, I'm sure it'll be very simple, but I could be proven wrong. We've got Hupsaiya. Yes, Hupsaiya, the Starcraft 2 Grandmaster Protoss, who has been making a name for himself playing all sorts of other games like Age of Wonders, I think it is, and also, what was the other one? Oh, yeah. No, never mind. I forgot it. I think it has Storm in it or something. Anyway, he's been playing Cosmonarchy for a while now, since late last year, actually. Late 2023 is when he picked things up and started. He got pretty far into Ascension number 7. Got pretty far into Acropolis number 1. He needs to make it through the Gauntlet stage here, and he decided not to play in the first Gauntlet, so he's really minimized the number of possibilities he has to make it into the tournament, but I'm confident in him. I'm confident enough to seed him number 3, so even though I'm not necessarily betting for him to make it through the upper bracket, assuming he gets past jakulangski here, he should be really nicely equipped to do some pretty cool things, and so there is that, of course. Hupsaiya, our number 3 player in the tournament, ranked number 3 in the qualifier, I should say. Very strong Protoss, very good at slamming out the units, getting things down, and just attacking, right? Just attacking, just killing them. Jakulangski, on the other hand, has been, I would say he's been seeing a bit of a resurgence. There were some things that gave me a little bit of pause predicting this series, because I think right before he played against Hupsaiya for this series, Jakulangski practiced against Ayud64, one of our top Terran players. And apparently, even though Ayud had not had much trouble versus Jack in Gauntlet Stage A, that was one of those situations where I look at that and I think to myself, damn, apparently he was taking Ayud, he like won 3-1 or something in their practice games, whereas I believe Ayud 2-0'd him in Gauntlet Stage A. So anyway, just saying that like the more immediate practice maybe is indicating him. That's a different matchup. It's a ZBT, but still, if Jack is actually leading, if he's spiking up in form, that could be a problem. Let's see if he's actually going to be that sketchy here as an opponent for Hupsaiya. We do have our pick ban on their screen. Hupsaiya banning Rage Slave, not interested in that map. Gonna go for Checkstealer. Okay, okay, I have some things to say, but that's after jakulangski bans Decapitation. Hupsaiya selecting Checkstealer, I almost feel like that's an own goal. I also am noticing that later on, jakulangski loves Paradise. He's such a big fan of Paradise, so he picks Paradise here as his follow-up. Demaloon gets banned by Hupsaiya, then Muspelheim banned by Jack. That's an own goal, because Muspelheim's a very good Zerg map. And then using the random feature, which we haven't really vetted, but Hupsaiya rolls it anyway. Blackwater Bastion is our decider, so that's how we get up here. I was really perplexed to see Checkstealer in the replay names, because Checkstealer is a map that is so favorable to Zerg, and we're going to go straight into that first map, and I will tell you guys what's up and why I feel that way. So I really would not expect ever see what reasonable username. I don't know who admin these is. It might be an Oslix or something. Very reasonable username on the witness. I hope that I'm sure he typed that message just so I would see it. All right, so we've got Hupsaiya. In the top left, the Checkstealer. He's the green Protoss, but he's not really that green, is he? He's pretty experienced. Jakulangski in the bottom right. Is this Celadon? Celadon? Asparagus. Nobody would recommend asparagus, dude. Doesn't that make you fart or something? Anyway, Hupsaiya, Jakulangski. We are looking at a cross spawn on on Checkstealer. Okay, the advantage is such that I actually think Jack should be able to take this game. And this is just based on the map, the spawns, everything. So Checkstealer is a map where you take fast 2 base, right? You got these bases. This is kickback ported to Cosmonarchy. Is an easy way to describe it. Obviously, there's going to be some things that are different. Like the middle of the map is actually an island, and we've got these areas that are more like Pantheon in StarCraft 1, with like the little upraised choke points, but it's only on the left and right, the sort of 3 and 9 o'clock positions on the map. So looking at it as I'm seeing it right now, yeah, Hupsaiya really should be capable of of reconsidering his choices in pick ban. I know he doesn't know that much about the maps, but this is a Zerg stronghold in that way. I would not be surprised if we never actually see Checkstealer be allowed through the veto for Zerg players. That being said, maybe there's some play, maybe there's some idea I don't want to give people the wrong idea about Hupsaiya because he does prep, he does practice, but he doesn't really practice based on the maps. He mostly just practices a style of his own. He practices against the players to try to get their style down. He played against Ayud a lot, for example, recently. Like, he does play the game, he does practice the game, right? But he's not really the kind of guy who's just like, yeah, I'm going to rock up and really learn the maps and know exactly where to wall and do all this other stuff. This Legionnaire will find the Droleth of Jakulangski and then complete the scout to the top right. Jack going for the Larvosk Pool Larvosk. This is interesting to do on this map because you would expect to go for those in-bases. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure on Liquipedia for Kickback, it says, like, there are baby bases, is what it calls it or something, baby expos. And I don't know if they're talking about it because the size of the expo is smaller, so it's like baby size, or if they mean that it's baby easy to take them because they're super, super generous. Anyway, we do have the Quasilisks out here to deal with this Legionnaire. It will get skated off. I will say Hupsaiya is actually pretty good at very quickly responding to being attacked. Like, he could have done a little bit better there anyway, but broadly speaking, I would just look at that and I would say, you know, he did a pretty good job of, like, reacting to stuff on the minimap. I mean, I've just now seen 2 cases where he could have done better, so it maybe seems a bit weird for me to say that about him here, but, you know, nothing too big is going down over here, right? The scribes are fine. He gets back to mining. He keeps the Legionnaire alive, at least for now. And we'll probably see him try to use those Dracodins to heckle the Quas. And if he can get up to a pretty good number of them, he can definitely be in a beneficial position here. Now, he's, once again, doing a little bit of trading. Right? Doing this micro and whatnot. One of the Dracodins has come back to deal with that Zethricore. Another one has popped out. Meanwhile, this actually, you know, that one Zeth did kind of slow things down because there could have been 4 Dracodins with this push, and now there's only 3. But that being said, it's still looking pretty strong here for Hupsaiya. Jack did not really use the base area. He's actually expanding after Hupsaiya. Like, he really did not play towards the map at all, interestingly enough. And I wonder how much of that is, like, you know, he wants to be a surprise factor. He's adding a lot of Zeth units, of pool units, rather, and a lot of larvae. So, but these Dracodins are still just wrecking havoc in the middle of the map. So right now, it's not actually playing out the way that I thought at all. I was really 100% convinced that Jack would just, like, double expand into, like, fast tier 2 or something, because that is a playstyle afforded by this map. But instead, he's playing it a very interesting way as Dracodins continue to heckle him. That being said, his expansion will be complete a little, maybe like 30 seconds or so after the expansion for Hupsaiya. Grand Library coming up. Definitely an option. You can go for Psystorm. You can go for Heralds and Amaranths for, like, perma, lifesteal, shield steal, I should say. Get that shield restoration up. Now, Hupsaiya is going to be taking this fight with some advantage, courtesy of the Dracodin count, but with this many Zethicores, it is easy to try to overwhelm them. However, there's not really that much follow-up damage. It's not like he's got Hydras back here. These are all Quas. They will deal reduced damage. You can see, just as long as you keep going, as long as you keep falling back, you know, obviously the Zerg player is going to go ahead and push them away. But now the Vorvicores are being mutated kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the Vorvicores are a good option, don't get me wrong. But mutating them out here definitely gives you some vulnerabilities. And look at this. Actually, Jakulangski bypassing the Dracodins, going around the sort of upper center of the map. Well, lower center, upper lower center. Anyway, that area of the map. And he's actually boxing Hupsaiya's Dracodins in. If he loses these Dracs, this could be really bad. But it looks like right now, instead, Jack making a beeline out and thinking, oh, maybe I'll catch him as a result of that. He does get the ensnare onto one of the Dracs, but it's not enough. Not enough to make a difference. Instead, he's thinking about maybe making a beeline for the other side of the map. And he could overwhelm this position. There is the one Cantavis for Storm. We got a pylon, we got a gateway, what, 4 gateways, 5 gateways coming up. We do have the embassy. And yes, the Zerg are making a beeline for that base for Hupsaiya. He casts Storm, he tries to relocate it. That's not going to work out too well for him. There we go, starting to get really nice hits onto that pile of Zeths and Vorvs. But there's more where that came from. And does the Cantavis have enough here? He's going to go ahead and drop it again. Definitely going to be helpful. Okay, it looks like I think Hupsaiya is just fine on the hold. Definitely feels like maybe Jack should have tried to kill that Cantavis sooner with the first surround. I feel like he had the opportunity to, but not quite able to make it happen. Now, a couple of Nathra have been hatched. Those will be heading to the natural base and start heckling the mineral harvesting. Notably, no gas harvesting from the natural for Hupsaiya. Not actually happening for Jakulangski either, who is making the Hydroth Den, recognizing that he definitely needs to be able to fight back against the Drakadons. Needs that upfront damage. Making a couple of Vorvs, making a bunch of Zeths. So he should actually, you know, I think he'll be all right on the hold. I don't think that we're going to see too much from Mr. Hup to breach that. He's already starting to lose a lot of his workers. Heralds do not shoot up. He has no anti-air whatsoever. Oh, no. Feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. Oh, my God. This has gone from bad to worse real quick, hasn't it? There's only 6 Nats. Imagine if it was more. Now, here comes the Zeth Flood. Now, Hupsaiya has to hope that his rallies of Ecclesiasts and such are going to be enough to clear this. He does need to use the Storm before the Cantavis gets sniped. It's totally surrounded. Oh, he's going to be able to use it just to soften up some of those units, but that was not going to be it. He calls GG. Jack has taken it, and he even forced the GG out of Hupsaiya. That never happens. That is peculiar. All right, well, honestly, I'm not really sure how to analyze this because, again, going back to what I talked about with the veto, Zerg is so favored on Checkstealer because of their ability to turtle up and force the opponent to be more proactive. I don't think it's unwinnable, but I just think when it's cross-spawn, so it's maximum distance, and there's the ability to go for that fast in-base, with the turtle play, and then just play it out with tier 2. I think on a normal, and by normal I mean like top level, like, ZVP, like if it was hit him up roll Zerg on Checkstealer, and he's cross-spawn from Neblime's Protoss or something like that, then he's probably going to be feeling pretty good about his odds. He's probably feeling like, okay, I know what I can do here. Jakulangski just kind of threw that idea out. He's like, yeah, whatever. I'll just make units, bro. That's fine. I don't need a tech. I don't even need to harvest gas from my natural. just make the units. And I do think that if Hupsaiya has like one Warden to buy time in the natural, if he has, Ecclesiasts or anything like that on standby for the air switch or anything like that. He did make an embassy. I didn't see if he made a witness at any point. That could have maybe swung the game a little bit in his favor. Anyway, the reverse sweep is quite possible. Paradise, a 4-spawn map. We'll see if Hupsaiya can bounce back on that one. And then again, we go to Blackwater Bastion, another 4-spawn map. So we actually have this is the only series I've seen so far that's gone, with the potential of going for all 3 maps are 4-spawn maps. Like, that never happens. So I'm actually really excited. I would predict that Hupsaiya will win the next one. Let's see if Jack can take his pick and seal the deal. That would be quite the upset 2-0 for Jack. But I don't think it's possible. It's possible. I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's likely. Let's see what happens. All right, we are getting into things with, once again, Asparagus, Jakulangski, and Hupsaiya in the bottom right. So, yeah, that was bottom left Zerg, Jakulangski, Asparagus. Bottom right, Hupsaiya. Is this Aralide Yellow? Lemon! That's Neblime! Holy shit. Well, he's the Protoss in the bottom right. So, I'm going to take a coffee sip. And when I take a coffee sip in the morning, casting Cosmonarchy, I'm just reminded that this community is pretty epic, and they've given me and Veek7, the 2 full-time members of the No Frauds Club, some moolah, some cash money, so that we can continue bringing Cosmonarchy to you, making it better. Imagine what happens in Acropolis number 3 when we have the Escozi. Imagine what happens then, dude. Imagine what happens when we have the Escozi, and we've got our 4th race up and running, and we've got more units, and we've got more epic. Just imagine, dude. Just think of the future. And donate towards that future if you so desire. Link in the bottom right, link in the description, coffee.com/PronogonVeek7. Taking my sip now. That's very refreshing. Very cold, very refreshing. Love me some very cold, refreshing coffee. Big fan. Hot coffee can be good too, but I feel like hot coffee gets me in the mood to do physical activity, whereas cold coffee gets me in the mood to do digital activity. Hupsaiya going for a 2-gate opener here. We do have Larvosk into pool. So that is the play for Jack. I wonder why Jack loves Paradise so much. Is it just familiarity? He always picks Paradise. I know that he played like 80 games of it versus Neblime at one point, so maybe that's got something to do with it, but it also occurs to me he built the Hydroth Den. I didn't see if he started building any actual Hydroth units in that last game. We could conceivably see him play pool only the entire time. Now with the 2-gate, actually going straight into 3-gate, no Legionnaire this time around, going for the Zealot. He did first scout his opponent, so he's feeling very, very good about, you know, identifying what needs to be done here. And 3-gate, you know, obviously the Drolath came in and sees 3-gate. Those Dracodons did so much work in the mid game of that Checkstealer match. Hupsaiya desperately looking for the Drolath. It has taken the advanced high ground Shambler position. For those who are uninitiated, Shambler used to be a Zerg player all the time. He used to burrow his Drolath in the middle of like nowhere, basically, and then Krankendow started burrowing it like in the middle of, well, in the actual middle of nowhere. This is like in the choke. So his worker would almost always die, but it would reveal the move out. And in Jack's case, it's like some in between of that and Krankendow, who would just burrow it in like a random spot inside your base. And yeah, Jack is on the high ground. He's the ramp worker. He's the ramp burrower. He doesn't really know that the move out's coming though, so this feels like a little bit dangerous for Jack. He is making some Zeths, much needed. Another Kagrant turning into a Larvosk. We got the hatch on the high ground, or on the low ground rather, and it's about halfway done. But the first gateway units are making themselves known. Now, more Zeths are being made, but this could very easily snowball in the wrong direction. We've got a third Dracodon coming. Remember that 3-gate opening. Now, if Jack holds, he's in a very, very nice position, courtesy of the fact that he's going to have a lot of larvae, he's going to have access to more gas mining, and so on and so forth. But he has to get through the Zealot and the Drax as well, and that's not something that pool units are super good at. So we're seeing the gateway versus pool divide right now. More Larvosks are coming online. We are going to have 5 larva production every 14 seconds. So every 14 seconds, we should see like 10 Zeths, right? You can see the runaround definitely favoring Hupsaiya right now as he just kind of micros his sweet little heart out. Now here comes the attempt at fighting back. He's going to finally get rid of that Zealot and force some more micro. But in that time, Dracodons have arrived. We are talking about 2 Dracodons. We've got 2 more on the way. This looks like it's just going to be a very simple 3-gate opener here. The Nexus is coming in the background as well. So there's a transition here for Hupsaiya. That's actually why he doesn't have more combat units. And now we're going to see Quas, but I don't think Quas are super good versus the Dracodons here. They're definitely they're coming out, man. They are coming out in full force. He hasn't actually popped a single Dracodon yet. Seeing if he can drive one back. Maybe he can pinch off some of those units on the other side. There we go. Finally, one will go down. 6 Dracodons still, though, and only a small spattering of Zethrichors coming out here. Jack does not have enough. He's got more money than he's got larva production, right? He needs more larva production. He's about to lose a hatch, too. So this is definitely looking a little bit awkward for him. If at some point he had been able to throw down the Hydrith Den, then maybe he could have gotten Hydras to fight this. But going for the... like this many Larvosks in the early game, with while scouting the 3-gate, I feel like as soon as you see 3-gate, you probably want to throw down the Hydrith. You probably still can go for the hatch, but at some point, instead of putting down an extra Larvos, put down the Hydrith, get those Hydras out faster. At this point, I feel like the number of Drax is just way too damn high. There's even one not even being used. We got 3 more on the way. Behind this, you know, Hupsaiya about to finish his Nexus and transfer some workers down. He's definitely feeling pretty good, pretty snazzy. This is more one-sided than I thought the games might look. So I don't want to make it seem like this is returned to normal and Hupsaiya is just this good and Jack is that bad or whatever. That is what the matchup will look like if you don't respect the opening heavy gate. Now, a lot of people who are Zerg-minded, who think that Zerg is OP or who think that Zerg is really, really strong, will say, oh, there's so many ways that you can respond to that. And I agree that there are many ways that you can respond to that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. If you scout the 3-gate, put down the Hydrith Den, or rely on the circuits with a lot of Zeths or something. You at least need like a Vornat so you can get Vorvs. You got to get something out there so that you can do a little bit better at dealing with the Dracodon count, because it will skyrocket and it will get out of hand. So there you go. Some more musings for you at these early game fights. Will we get a long one when we go to Blackwater Bastion? Because as predicted, all 3 maps are necessary. Hupsaiya, obviously the favorite. Let's see what he can do on that third 4-spawn map. We are in with Jakulangski in the top right. Blackwater Bastion, a map by Biddy B. Paradise, also a map by Biddy B. And what was the first map? It was Checkstealer. I ported kickback, courtesy of Hit 'em Up, requesting that for bounty. Anyway, Jack is in the top right as the Coyote Brown Zerg. No, it's Beaver! Beaver, you got me! Shout out to Beaver. He wasn't able to participate in Acropolis number 2, but he said he'll be down for the next one. Hupsaiya has the green Protoss in the bottom right. So I screwed up Airlight Yellow for Lemon. Like, I guessed Airlight Yellow and it was Lemon. And that was in the last game. I think I got the colors right the first time around, though. No, I didn't. I fucked up Asparagus. Damn. I've only had 50% color guess accuracy this whole series. That's sad. Very sad, very sad. All right, so it looks like we're going to see the Larvosk into pool once again. Jakulangski being even more on the ball than he was last time. Last time he had 5 gas after turning his Larvosk, Kagrin into a Larvosk. This time he's got 0. Pulled it off immediately and got straight back to Mineral Pump. That's how you know that it's going to be a pool. There it is. So the pool comes down. Obviously, the second gate comes down around the same time, just to show you guys the timings there, about halfway done with that gateway. So if you are going to go for Kagrin into pool or Kagrin into Larvosk into pool, that's about roughly when you can expect the timings. Looks like both players going for the horizontal scout, so they will miss the fact that they are vertical spawns, sharing the same hemisphere of the map. I feel like there's been some error in my wake-up pattern today because... oh my god, the 3-gate is happening again. Okay, well, hey, we'll get to see if Jakulangski, assuming he can scout this or intuit this, has a response ready for this kind of thing. He's backed up harvesting Vespine, but I suspect that's just going to be for Larvosk. Anyway, yeah, I feel like my I could have had a better shot waking up today because, like, I feel like my ear isn't quite clear. You know how, like, your ears will pop sometimes, or, like, if you blow your nose, your hearing gets better again? Look at that, straight into the Hydrith Den. I guess Jakulangski is hearing things just fine. Feels like he definitely needs... I mean, if you think about it, you don't need to blind read that the 3-gate is coming. You just remember the first game was 2-gate, and the Draconans were really, really wrecking stuff. You were able to win eventually, but the Draconans definitely contributed. Then in the second game, Draconans were just your extinction. So going for Hydrith makes a lot of sense. It will force the Protoss into more tech. And if they've gone 3-gate and you go Hydrith and you hold, you can get a much better economic advantage because then they've got to decide, do I get more tech for things like the Grand Library for Storm so I can deal with those Hydriths, or do I go for a Nexus and then delay my Grand Library and do all this other stuff, right? So I think there's actually a lot of the decision tree that brings it back into... Maybe not Zerg favored, but at least Zerg can start to compete for tempo. Where other than that, like the Draconans in the early game are definitely going to compete and give that tempo up. So we are going to be seeing 3 larvae every 14 seconds. There's another Kagrin put down for an eventual Larvosk. Obviously, there's going to be less Larvosks because you have Hydras competing for the gas. Now, we do have a couple of Hydras popping out here, and so we'll see what... I feel like right now, Hupsaiya can still actually just fight this, and he's actually trying to do his best to do that, although the ramp is obviously going to give him some grief. But we are going to see more Hydras pop out here from the Larvosk Cesians, and that is definitely going to help soften up these Draconans. You can see many of them below half HP. Now pulling back those Hydras. Getting pretty deep into the Zerg base right now. Feeling pretty good about that. Hupsaiya trying to focus down that Larvosk. I don't think that's the right move here because he is going to have to deal with those units spawning out. So at least one Draconan should end up falling courtesy of that cliff advantage. There it is. Popped like a balloon. And now Hupsaiya has to decide how aggressive he wants to be. Because even though it looks like, oh yeah, obviously 5 Draconans beats 5 Hydras, I mean, you're talking about the cliff advantage, you're talking about Zethracore spawning, more Hydra spawning. This is definitely a situation where Hupsaiya has already begun switching out into his expansion. Oh, a bad rally on the Drac. I guess it scouts it's a scouting Drac, you know? Meanwhile, the worker unburrows from inside the Krankendow spot, somewhere in the space, and scouts that. Right now, it's still 3-gate. That's all that it really got. It didn't get too deep in the scouting. I assume that's where it was, by the way. I wasn't paying too close attention onto that. I forgot that Jack even had a scout out. I assumed it would have died already. Shout out to Jack. So now he's going to go ahead and... this actually reminds me of a style Nebline was building versus Protoss back in Acropolis #1. He did this versus Hamster a little bit. He basically did Hydrith on one base and then went for like fast 3, like double expand after breaking the contain, basically. It's very, very similar kind of play pattern was happening back then. So it's kind of interesting to see that, where Jakulangski kind of going to that style because he doesn't really feel like competing with the 3-gate opener or with Draconan heavy compositions, which Hupsaiya has shown a desire for. So now the Hydras are just kind of pushing these Draconans around. You can see what a difference it makes compared to going for Zeth Quas, even with the Vorvs. You know, you can kind of just kite backwards. Hupsaiya now taking a more advantaged position there. He's got his Zealots out here, making a lot of Zealots. If he can link up the Zealots with the Draconans, he can definitely fight the Hydras a lot better. But right now, it's not looking too hot. And a Crucible is now starting up. That's going to help empower the gateways to train even faster. Only one wounded Zethracore is going to be able to make it in, and the Zeths are all the Zealots are all chasing after it, which is kind of funny. There you go. And the Draconans are also withdrawing, so it looks like we're actually going to handshake into a sort of macro opener. I mean, there's a lot of back and forth here. Finally, that Kegra turns into a Larvosk. That could have been a worker harvesting resources this whole time, so that is a little bit of a waste. But that's all right. Jack is just going to go ahead and use his Vornath. I assume he's going to be going like Hydra Vorv. I could see him going for Naths as well. But I feel like as of right now, I mean, with the Warden coming, the extra Pylon, another Gateway, Crucible now finishes. That should empower... I feel like that should empower this Gateway down here, but it might be just out of range. It's definitely going to empower the Warden. And if you put like an engram to the right of it, it should empower that as well. That could be pretty slick. Embassy on the way for our Protoss player. And right now, he doesn't really have kill pressure, but he definitely has the freedom and the economic advantage. I mean, the worker count is more than double. The ability to take a third base is definitely more in Hupsaiya's court. I think the Embassy is probably going to give him an option to scout, but I would love to see him use like 1 or 2 Zealots, put 1 Zealot here, put 1 Zealot here, and maybe just like another one over here to watch for an exit with the Hydras or something. You want to keep tabs on your opponent if you can, and you can see, just as I say that, one of the Zealots is moving out. Looks like it's earmarked for that area up here. And you know what? He might just barely, he might actually scout the Nathracors moving out. He's moving off to the side. I honestly, you know what? Hupsaiya has like that 6th sense, but it's actually gonna, it's not gonna be there for him this time. A Crucible Empowered Warden should kill, I think, 3 Naths. And a Matrix is now started. You can see the move out happening. Does he have any anti-air coming? No. So it's all down to whether or not the Warden can actually hold here. Looks like it will narrowly not kill one of the Naths there. That's a little bit unfortunate. So he's pulled back his whole army to try to deal with this, which is also, I feel like, unfortunate. It doesn't cancel the Warden or the Matrix that gets attacked. And he pulls the workers out. There's a lot of economic damage dealt just by killing the static defense for free, basically. So 6 Nats definitely paying for themselves. Rally of the Zealots and the Ecclesiasts coming in to meet the Zets and thin this out. This is actually really big for Hupsaiya because he clears out most of the front line, and his front line is going to stay alive courtesy of these Ecclesiasts coming in here. So now he can kind of fall back and wait for the rest of the units to trickle back in. He has resaturated his main, making a witness. I think that's his 2nd witness of the game. I'm not sure where his first one went. He's pinched off 2 Zealots just to see what else is going on, maybe check the other mains, but jakulangski is still on 2 base. Now falling back, trying to mutate Vorvs right on the front line. That's not going to work out. Fall back with the massive amount of Hydras that he has. Hupsaiya definitely in a commanding position here. Has 26 workers of an advantage over his opponent. He is harvesting with... yeah, he's harvesting from his gas. He's got these 2 witnesses idle. That's definitely I was right about the 2nd witness. I was like pretty sure I saw one making earlier. Now, what is jakulangski going to do as a follow-up? He's putting a Hatrosk on the low ground. He's now coming back around for maybe a bit of a surround here. This could be very, very big. Remember that the Zealots are kind of mostly consolidated somewhere else. The Ecclesiast in frontline territory, this is definitely going to help him out. One of them falls to speed up the Draconans as they try to pinch off this flank, but now the Zealots have mostly been thinned out, right? He does have another couple arriving, and the Hydra Ball is pretty tight right now, but it still feels like this should be a winnable fight for Hupsaiya. And you know what? He's going to fall away from it, but I do think he could have just fought this. It's only 11 Hydras. He's got, you know, he had more units than that, but he wants to fall back. He wants to conserve his units. Not worried about the follow-up because the Zealots were not in place to deal with the incoming Zeths. All in all, I think it's a pretty good move. You know, I'm thinking overall, you think about like the fact that you have the Draconans, you have the Ecclesiasts that when they die, they speed you up. I'm thinking in my head, okay, I can just sack one of my Ecclesiasts and then speed my way out if more units come. But Hupsaiya doesn't even want to bother with that fancy footwork. Zealots could have been closer to the front, but Draconans don't end up dying. So Hupsaiya still feeling pretty good about that. Clears out, softens up some of those Hydras and clears out one of them. Oh, not on an attack move. That's maybe a bit of a mistake. He's going to lose the Draconan on the front. Remember, these units are fairly important for the single target DPS. He doesn't have any splash damage right now. The Ardent Authority mostly completed. Zealot still pulling back very, very good micro moves here from Hupsaiya, but he has no splash. He's only now putting down some static defense, and that is going to get run over by the Hydras. 4 gates about to complete. Hupsaiya is seconds away from being able to use a lot of production to his advantage. And remember, he has such a huge worker advantage right now with only 2 base from the Zerg player. This is very, very an all-in position from jakulangski, it feels like. And the battle workers come out. You can afford to lose a couple of these, and really he's only lost like 3 or 4. Now pulling back to go back to saturation, but more Zets pouring on in. That's going to be the end of the fight from Jack. He cannot continue this push. Slinking away with a mere like 5 or 6 units. Not where Jack wanted to be. Still has no third base. And no money to actually start it right now. Meanwhile, the third base was started by Hupsaiya and not attacked, not forced to cancel by that very fearsome Hydra-based army. So definitely looking good for Hupsaiya right now. Making the Acantor. Remember this Crucible powering so many of these units. Indeed, it was empowering the gateway down on the south. So we've got 8 gates and the Acantor building the Architect, or the Ancestral Archives building. No, fuck. What? Anyway, the Ardent Authority building the Acantor. I hope you guys like the A's. You know, there's like Aurora, Artisan. There's so many A units. Amaranth, Atreus. You know, there's so many A units that you could go for. I love alliteration. Protoss. Protoss is an A race. A-listers. Okay, so I'm looking at the way that Jack has been building up his comp. And it is just pure Hydra Vorv. Like Hydra Zeth Vorv. It's not that complicated. And now he's going to be able to dive in here. What is the reaction from Hupsaiya? He was expecting something a little bit different here. This is definitely going to signal that there is a third base up. But Jack is now going to get a little bit loose here. There's a Matrix that's about half HP once the shields fall, so that's not super ideal. Acantor out here firing shots. Nice soften up on a lot of those Zets. That's going to really help the Zealot Ecclesiast combo to deal with those. A couple of these shots going a little bit too slow to really be super useful. Zets coming in from the north, but not really that much. I mean, a couple of workers died, but really, again, you look at the current situation, actually a lot more workers going down. Oh, all the Zets sticking onto the natural. That is criminal. The Acantor could have come on down and tried to fight that, but Hupsaiya not realizing it in the chaos. There's Zerg units everywhere. He's still not realized it. He still hasn't looked over to that area. I think he might have just sent out some units to 6 o'clock or something, but... yeah, that was a brutal explosion. I don't know. I guess he's got that as part of a control group, and he's just right-clicking it. Look at the Remax from Jack. An envoy being made right now for Hupsaiya. 11 pairs of Nathracors just got started. That is something to keep in mind. Remember those witnesses from the early stages of the game? When you detect eggs, you can actually click on them and see what units they're making. That could be so much information right now for Hupsaiya, but he's making an envoy instead. He wants to micro the Acantor and probably use it as a bit of a drop. He is shredding all of the Zets and the Vorvs with those Acantors. He's building up a nice stack of them. That's not going to help him too much versus all of the Nathracors that just got started. And those are specifically, look at that, 2 Zealot raid in the natural. Completely ignored. The Nathracors just going to go ahead and dive bomb onto the very minimal anti-air. There's not that much splash. No Positrons. Well, you know what? Right now, the Ecclesiast Draconans are actually able to do okay. But remember, the Nathracor count is still so damn high. You're not going to be able to do too much here. I mean, the Zets are going to, the ground game's still just being pounded by these Acantors. And that envoy was made at one point, but it didn't end up actually being used. More Zealots, the same Zealots actually, just running in and wrecking havoc. A couple more Zealots running off to the other side. The Acantors are persevering in the face of the... Oh, it's a Zealot drop. Okay, the Acantors are persevering in the face of the threat. As soon as these get focused in on and seen, yeah, the Nathracors are going to come in and clean them up. Very unfortunate here for Hupsaiya. He's going to end up losing his ace in the hole when it comes to that ground game anyway. What's he going to do versus the Naths? I mean, he's making Servitors. That Positrons deal splash damage. I don't know if he knows that. Here comes the Zealot drop into the third base, just shut down the mineral mining there. Remember, so many dead workers. There is a witness occupying there, checking that stuff. Workers getting shellacked, but still, again, the economic damage from Jack on the side of Jack, right? He's still down in workers. He's not harvesting anything from the third base. He's very minimally harvesting, his wounded harvesting in the natural, and the main as well. The main is very wounded, if you think about it. Like, it's depleted partially, so... Definitely a bit of an awkward position here. Even with enough Servitors and enough, Draconans and such, I actually think that Hupsaiya is going to be just fine when it comes to the Nathracors. I also think if you know that this is coming, like I was talking about this with the Arbuz Geralt series, Like, you can just go straight into, like, one Stargate production of land effects, and if you have, like, 5 land effects eventually or whatever, like, the Nether cores do nothing. They just explode. So, you know, that's another option. Draconins are out here. If those Zealots had unloaded, I feel like this would have been a huge fight in favor of Hupsaiya, but as of right now, it does look like it's going to have to be a retreat based on the fact that more Zealots are coming out. I still think he might be able to hold. Remember, no more Acantors were made. Switched into mostly Servitors. The Nether core's basically taken out. The Draconin's definitely going to be able to hold this. A couple of Zeths getting a couple of kills, but for the most part, that's it. Witness is all over. Definitely good change in play there for Hupsaiya. He's going to go ahead and drop the natural with those Zealots. They are such a pain in the ass, and they do deal so much damage. It does feel like they're very, very good at being used for that particular purpose. Love to see that. This is a much closer game than I thought we were going to get, I will admit. But I like it. It's looking pretty good. Still a couple of Nats. 4 more pairs being made right now. Artisan being made for Hupsaiya. He wants that distant gas mining. Here comes the descent of the Naths. But again, I feel like the Draconin count here is still pretty good, right? He just doesn't have that much on the front line. Here comes the attempted surround. The Nats are going to get cleaned up. Vorv's definitely doing their part, absorbing a lot of damage for the Hydras, but there's only, what, 7 Hydras here? That's actually not that much. You know, Hupsaiya can stand and fight this, although there are more units coming out. And Hupsaiya does not have his rally set up to join the fight, it doesn't look like. You can see now some of his units getting picked apart. And another round of Nether cores can be focused down here by Hupsaiya if he wants to make sure to clear out those air units. He's kind of drawing them away, and now the Zealots can maybe descend onto those Hydras, and at the very least, occupy their time. That drop at 12 o'clock never actually manifested. It's still just idling over there based on the minimap. So I'm thinking that Hupsaiya missed an opportunity to add more chaos into the pie. We've got a lot more Zealots coming over here. I still don't know if this is the right move. I mean, you look at this and you think to yourself, man, if only I had more Acantors, I could chew through all of these units. That's what really helped the ground game before. No Ecclesias to keep these Zealots alive a little bit longer. The Zeth's just surrounding them and tearing them to pieces. No more reinforcements coming for Jack, but I think he might have just broken through. 1 Acantor being made, 5 Zealots being made. A couple of Artisans over here to maybe see if they can fight back. A Servitor coming out. Oh, you know, he's actually holding okay, but he is going to lose a lot more workers. Jack now up to a comparable worker count is pretty bad for the Protoss player. Here comes some of the Nether cores, but, you know, there's still enough Drax to deal with this. It's not really the end of the world. He's going after the Artisans. Those are a bit more expensive, right? So you can see Hupsaiya. He's like, no, leave me alone. All right, another round of units coming in for Jack. 11 Hydras at a time right now. Very, very scary if the ground game continues to elude Hupsaiya. He does have the 1 Acantor. He just did make about like 6 Draconins popped out or so. Definitely needs to see about getting them onto the front line, though. He's kind of rallying them all over the place. Looks like there was a couple of Nether cores in there. And he calls it. Hupsaiya can't do it. Jakulangski has got into the upper qualification match. Wow. You know, if this is, I want to see a best of 3 between those guys now, or sorry, a best of 5 between those guys now. If this was a best of 5, I really wonder what would have happened. I have to imagine that Hupsaiya would have clinched it, but goddamn, son, I can't believe it. I honestly cannot believe it. Looking at back in retrospect, Checkstealer, the pick did not really manifest the way that I thought. Even though Jack won it, it didn't really seem like it was it mattered that much to the series. Like, it could have been any other map, right? Definitely, I like the 3-gate. I like the adaptation from Hupsaiya in Game 2, and I love the adaptation from Jakulangski to go Hydrith earlier on one base. I think that's not the only thing you can do versus 3-gate, but that is a thing you can do versus 3-gate. And if he wanted to be a little bit more defensive early on, he probably could have gotten his hatch up earlier as well. So, you know, these are just some things that we see out of the matchup. Very cool stuff. Hupsaiya falling to the lower bracket does change some predictions. He will have to make it past the winner of Luciferius and Lundier. And then if he makes it past that, he'll have to make it past Canoli. Canoli, another Zerg player who's been on the rise lately. Similar-ish to Luai, who I showcased yesterday. So that's pretty neat. Going into that, if he makes it past those 2 players, whoever wins between Lucy and Lundier, and then Canoli, then he's in the more safe zone area, because even if he then loses the lower qualification, there is a last chance qualification for the 5th spot. So there is a chance there for Hupsaiya to still make it into the tournament. I would say it's a good chance, but I'm not sure that it's as much of a lock as we thought. For sure, if he made it to the to the upper qualification, then it's almost a lock, because you actually have 3 chances to qualify at that point. You get like a little extra life at the end. So now that means that Jakulangski is going to face off against Shopkeeper Dog. And, Dog 2-0'd Cannoli, but we're going to take a look at that series. So at some point, just because I think it's actually... That's apparently a very competitive 2-0. And so I will be taking a look at that at some point later on in this week. Just to see what Dog's TVZ is like. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what checks out. But until then, GG boys. And remember, you can access all these replays. The open bracket policy is in effect. You can check the CM Tournaments channel for the link to those replays if you want to get the leg up on your competition. If you want to actually see some of these games before I cast them for whatever reason, you can do that too. And congrats to Jakulangski for making it to the upper qualification. He's now in best of 5 territory the whole way through. He has 3 chances to qualify, just like Shopkeeper Dog. Just like I thought Hupsaiya would at this point. But pretty cool stuff. If I do think Hupsaiya's matchups versus Protoss and versus Terran are stronger. And I think that this it shows an interesting set of adaptations. I think after this series, I remember him talking about like Cantavis being much better than a Cantor or something like that, probably because of its flexibility versus air and stuff. I also would shout out something that Arbuz does a lot is Stargate play. So if you're a Protoss struggling with Zerg, definitely think about like, okay, if I scout that they've gone Vornath, or the Hydrith Den evolution as well, the ski-backed scab. If I scout that they have the pond or the scab, either of the evolutions to tier 1 structures, I kind of need a Stargate, or I would like to have a Stargate, just so I have 3-4 land effects. I can disruption field Nathracores to make it so that they can't even attack. I can try to do the same thing to the ground army, even if they don't go air. But it's just a good insurance policy. And again, they can be used versus ground units as well. That might be a little ace in the hole for Protoss players to use going forward. I hope that we see more development in this matchup because PvZ is one of the most exciting matchups, I think, in StarCraft 1 as well as Cosmonarchy. And I'm not that familiar with it in StarCraft 2. Obviously, I'm not as much of a fan of StarCraft 2, but I'm assuming that people like these non-mirror matchups in general the most. That seems to be the case. So definitely see those in action, right? Check them out. And we'll be seeing you guys for another cast tomorrow. So, subscribe if you're not already. Stay tuned. Drop us some moolah if you like. Shout out to Sipiak, who dropped up some moolah before I started this cast. I'm going to finish this coffee and have a good rest of my day. I hope you do too. GG.